involved in abuse of children at kids, and that the abuse was directed by Miller Newton.
Drugs again. I fucking do not want to do drugs.
When your life is totally enmeshed with an addiction, a little casual counseling doesn't work.
I need more on that. Let's bring it up a bit. Good. There you go. Stand by and try it again.
Loch Ness is Britain's largest stretch of inland water, and it's 900 feet deep. And underneath the surface lurks a mystery.
In 1978, I saw a head and a neck above the water, just round the corner from the castle there.
Saw a terrific disturbance in the middle of the bay, and then a great hump came up and went down again.
When you've seen really a massive hump in this loch, you know you've seen it.
Whack. Hold on. Resolve up. Mike, fuel him.
J.B. Spence fancies himself the victim's advocate, the white knight, the compassionate lawyer fighting against terrible doctors. But in point of fact, J.B. Spence is making an awful lot of money on people's pain and suffering.
When I say rotten doctors and lying doctors and dishonest doctors, and frankly, to tell you the truth, I enjoy suing the bastards.
I used to believe that the plaintiff's lawyers were the white hat guys. Unfortunately, there are no white hats. We all stink.
Give me a reset on your audio. Resetting audio. Audio is good, and take it.
Welcome to West 57th. I'm Meredith Vieira. Perhaps there is no desperation as great as that of a parent with a child in trouble with drugs or drinking. Who should you trust when family communication breaks down and you see your child's future reeling out of control? Across America, hundreds of parents have turned to a program called KIDS, and its designer and director, Miller Newton. Many call him a saint, and KIDS, healing medicine for shattered families. But now some disturbing allegations have been made by former staffers, clients, and parents. The stakes are great, because the kids at KIDS could be the kids next door.
We work with each other, we will work side by side. We will work with each other, we will work side by side.
My name is Nelson. I'm 22 years old. The drugs I've done are pot, alcohol, treated pot, Valium, Rush, PCP, cocaine.
The confessions pour out, punctuated by occasional singing and the flapping of arms. What you're witnessing is a unique rehabilitation program called KIDS.
What has KIDS of Bergen County done? KIDS of Bergen County has actually put our family back together.
I'm thankful for my life back, and I know it was from the program.
The Kulik family is one of many devoted to KIDS. The rehab program has affiliates in Texas, California, and this one, KIDS of Bergen County, in Hackensack, New Jersey. It's the base of operation for KIDS president and clinical director, Dr. Miller Newton.
You know, I know what I'm doing here. I know I have a great deal of care for kids. I know we've developed a successful program. I know I would not run a program that I would not put my own child through.
Okay, I'm Dr. Miller Newton, the president and clinical director of KIDS of Bergen County. And on behalf
the
of our
first year in the program costs $8,500, plus an additional $95 a month for daily expenses. In return, KIDS offers a rigidly structured program for clients as young as 12 and as old as their 20s. All suffer from what Dr. Newton calls compulsions. Drug, alcohol, behavior, and even eating compulsions are all treated the same way, with the same day-in, day-out group therapy known as RAPS. Clients get attention by flapping their arms. It's called motivating. If they motivate hard enough, they get to talk about their problems.
I wanted to feel better, but I didn't want to stop using drugs. I didn't want to
give everything up. Yeah.
I didn't want to do drugs again. I did not want to do drugs.
When they're not talking, their days are spent in the program's trademark plastic blue chairs. The rap sessions often last 12 hours a day and are led by graduates of kids like Tony Kazakowicz and Celeste Kulik.
I really got where I'm sitting right now, and I'm happy. And if I can do it, I know that every single one of you guys can too.
Sit down. I want you to let it sink in because it's a spiritual problem that you have. Okay, one more person in the fast part of the rap.
Graduates have made it through the program's 5 phases, winning back more freedom and responsibility as they're promoted. First phasers are belt looped, led everywhere, even to the bathroom, by more senior phasers. It's part of Dr. Newton's theory of treatment through peer pressure, kids confronting other kids. And at weekly open meetings, families have a chance to confront their children.
I feel like you just don't care. I don't even know what to do with you. All I know is you're in the right place. You can stay there, Tim. I'm really disgusted with you. You're really selfish and arrogant. That's how I feel about you. I love you.
I love you, Mom.
What you've accomplished in the 2 years you've been here is truly mind-boggling. I am truly proud of you, as proud as any father could be in a son.
I mostly lived every single day to get high on cocaine. I don't care where I slept, who I slept with, how I got it. As long as I got it, that's all that mattered. I had really no control over it anymore.
Our family was being ripped apart. My marriage was being ripped apart. We had nothing left, so we took her to kids for an assessment.
Celeste was 17 when her parents pulled her out of high school and put her into kids. Like all first phasers, she was separated from her family. Life by day became a blue chair. By night, she slept at the homes of senior phasers. Every move was dictated by a doctor of anthropology with a stern private vision of drug rehabilitation.
It's a tough program.
Yes, it is. It is. It's hard work. When your life is totally enmeshed with an addiction, when every arena of your life is messed up, when your self-esteem is so low, a little casual counseling doesn't work.
It's also a controversial program.
I find that interesting. You guys say that in the media.
I think what he can do to a young person is dangerous. I think he can destroy people's lives with the control that he holds. And I think that he has done it, you know?
Newton has said his critics are mainly program dropouts, but Christy Johnston was a Newton protege, a program graduate, and one of 7 former staff members we spoke with who now question the ethics of Kids of Bergen County. Christy and her parents, Jean and Ed, credit Newton with getting Christy off drugs and alcohol. But in the process, they say he nearly destroyed their family.
You feel Dr. Newton betrayed you?
Absolutely. The concern that I had was that her own identity had been removed, that she was so dependent on this program and this peer group and this support group that there was no life outside Kids of Bergen County, not even life with a family.
In essence, you trade one compulsion for another. The compulsion now is the program.
Most parents do not question the program, but many former staffers do. Christy, a paid staff member, worked as many as 80 hours a week, but it wasn't the long hours that came to trouble her the most.
I saw abuse and I was a part of abuse, actually, to tell you the truth. Scream, yell, threaten to beat them up, push them around a little bit.
This was on Newton's orders? This is what he suggested?
Dr. Newton and I did this together. Yes, this is what he told me to do. I took one girl into office and I scared her to death. And the next staff member pulled in another girl, and the staff member ended up winning a fight where they were rolling around on the ground. And Dr. Newton stood by and watched, or said, "I'll turn my back." And he told this girl, this staff member, you know, bring her in here and scare her, and if she hits you, hit her back. I mean, we mean business. This is the only way to get these kids to start behaving, and it worked.
Occasionally, a kid will get in a rage so it's out of control, and under staff supervision, they'll be held in their chair and talked to until they calm down, or the chair taken out and they laid on the floor until they calm down. But we try to keep it for a minimal period of time. We're very careful. We don't want anybody hurt.
Newton claims he's opposed to violence, but others remember him differently.
So we were very concerned about a program which we looked at as being something of a private jail, utilizing techniques of torture and punishment, which even a convicted criminal wouldn't be subject to.
Former Florida prosecutor David Levin first heard of Newton back in 1982 when he investigated a rehab program known as STRAIGHT. Although located in Sarasota, it took its orders from the main office here in St. Petersburg. And at the time, the clinical director of STRAIGHT Inc. was Dr. Miller Newton.
Our conclusion was based on the fact that he was the person who was responsible for training the people in the Sarasota office at how to conduct the program, which included these various, and I use their terminology, restraint techniques. It would be our terminology that it was child abuse and torture, was directed by Miller Newton.
That's a libelous statement because that's simply not correct. I didn't direct that program for the period in which the investigation was involved.
But Newton's own resume says otherwise.
I have you listed as National Clinical Director, STRAIGHT Inc., St. Petersburg, Florida, 82 to 83, and the investigation was 82 to 83. So you were Clinical Director of STRAIGHT Inc. during the investigation.
You can play with the dates all you want.
I'm not trying to, sir. You sparked me to just look at this. And
the time frame is correct, but I can tell you that I became clinical director and suddenly found out there was this thing going on I had never heard of before, that I walked into Cole and said, for God's sake, I am against any harm to any kids, any place. Tell us what the problem is so we can fix it.
But in the midst of the investigation, Sarasota STRAIGHT decided to close down. The investigation was terminated, and Miller Newton left for New Jersey, where he created Kids of Bergen County. By 1986, the same types of accusations that had plagued STRAIGHT were being made about kids.
I'm so glad that it's all completely gone and out of my life because, well, it wasn't, the majority of the time was misery.
Tony Mitchley and his two roommates left Kids of Bergen County after a total of 7 years there. Now they share an apartment in Fort Lauderdale and a complete distrust of Miller Newton. Tony and Jeff Skolny are former clients of Kids. Alexis Stadnow is a former staffer. All three maintain that sanctioned physical abuse is a matter of course at Kids.
There were two brothers that were in the program. They did not want to be there. They were rebellious. One night we took them out into the intake room just to rough them up. I mean, we threw them around, flung them around, but I was told by the higher staff, you have to do that, you know. Dr. Newton says it has to be done, it has to be done. And if I don't want to do it, something's wrong with me. I got two guys grabbing me, and, you know, all I do is defend myself, and the next thing I know, my head's gushing blood. I passed out. I had to be rushed to the hospital.
Never had any serious injuries.
what about what happened to Tony Mitchley?
You know, I can't, under federal law, comment on any individual.
But Mitchley's hospital records state that he was bleeding from the scalp and his vision was blurred after being dropped on the head during a rap session. A year later, Tony, a legal adult, left the program. For good, he thought.
I had left. I had been gone for a month. And I was riding a bicycle, and another staff member jumped me and physically fought me, trying to bring me back. This is Drew Gigante and Tony Kazakowicz.
Has this program ever attempted to bring back an adult who's left?
No, this program has not.
What about Tony Kazakowicz? Tony Kazakowicz, he's a staff member, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
He was arrested.
And Kazakowicz's arrest report confirms Tony Mitchley's story.
Stopped their vehicle, then proceeded to grab and remove him from his bike. They physically restrained him. Their intentions were to return him to the program.
All right. You have something I've never seen. I know that there was a tussle, that there was a charge, it was dropped.
Do you know why it was dropped?
I have no idea.
Did Dr. Newton ask you to talk to Tony Mitchley?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. Then he asked myself and the staff member who was involved in this to go back and try to get this guy to please not press charges.
I have no knowledge of that.
Christie says Newton not only had knowledge of the deal, but that he himself confirmed it over the phone to Mitchley.
And the deal we finally made with him is, we swear we will never take you back at Kids if you swear you will never press charges against this program.
Across America on a San Diego beach, sailor Larry Clay and his wife Cindy tell a story similar to Tony Mitchley's. Only theirs involves another kids program in El Paso, Texas, one of a growing network of clinics with staff trained by Miller Newton. Larry was a client of the Texas clinic until he ran away.
I ran from the program. What they do is they lock you up in the room at night,
and I snuck out of the window and ran down the street in my underwear.
He had lost 20 to 25 pounds, and he looked really bad. Mentally, they just messed him up bad.
My name's Larry. I'm 17. I've done these drugs for a year and a half, and no, I don't believe I have a drug problem.
This is Larry Clay about a year ago, when we first began filming at Kids of Bergen County. What we didn't know at the time was that Larry was brought here against his will. A legal adult in Texas, he had fled the El Paso program, only to be chased down by his parents and a Kids graduate, put on a private plane, and flown to New Jersey.
It was just the same thing, almost exactly the same 5 phases, the steps on the wall, no TV, no radio, no nothing, no going outside, except the people there, since the program was older, a lot of the people looked a lot worse.
The only thing I know is that a young man by the name of Larry Clay arrived here with his own parents who sought to admit him to treatment.
He'd been taken against his will.
I did not know that.
But Clay's Texas lawyer had no trouble figuring it out, and he sent the FBI to Bergen County with a subpoena to get Clay released. Since then, the Texas Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse has revoked the operating license of Kids of El Paso. Commissioner Bob Dixon explains why.
Well, it's obvious from our findings that they have not, that the administration out there has not operated a treatment program within the law of the state of Texas. And the violations that we found when we investigated were overwhelmingly violations of civil rights and safety and health, and people being held against their will, sleep deprivation, restraint, seclusion, things like that.
I don't know about the politics of Texas.
How can you not know? You're the president of Kids of America Incorporated. You're the national clinical director.
Right, but Kids of America doesn't own any programs.
My understanding that Kids of El Paso's, all of their policies and procedures and their treatment philosophy are a product of Dr. Miller Neaton.
Let's get on with this Friday night open meeting. Love you, group.
Newton's home base in New Jersey came under scrutiny of its own in 1986. But the county prosecutor could never substantiate client claims of physical abuse. Christy Johnston says she's not surprised.
Of course the people investigated and didn't find anything. First of all, they didn't push the issue far enough or they would have found something. And second of all, we did a whole lot of doctoring up of things to get it prepared for these people when they came. Everything was a show. The files were fixed perfectly, which they hadn't been previously. The kids were not allowed to be treated like they usually are when they're there.
Now that people like Christy have begun to speak out, the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office has again taken statements from former clients and staff who have left the kids' program. Newton discounts the allegations against him as the lies of disgruntled employees and former clients, many of whom he claims have gone back on drugs. And he retains the support of a majority of parents who long ago lost trust in their children. After we interviewed Tony Mishley and Alexis Stadnow, we received letters from both their fathers telling us to ignore the young men's stories. Letters that are indicative of the trust many parents retain in the program, even if it divides them from their own children.
Happy birthday, dear Celeste.
Recently, Celeste Kulik turned 20. Her parents, John and Judy, consider that a testimony to Miller Newton.
It's really special to me because I really never thought I'd get to celebrate this birthday with her.
Me and my wife talked about it a few times. If we ever hadn't completed this program, it would have been a big void in our life. This is a great accomplishment. It's a great feeling.
I'm just happy. That's all. I look forward to next year and celebrating that one sober too.
You'll need somebody to lean on.
Kids gave Celeste that future, but ultimately it is the clarity of the law and not the haze of emotion by which kids will be judged. In El Paso, Kids has appealed the decision revoking its license and continues to operate while awaiting a decision due in a few weeks. And in Yorba Linda, California, the local police department is investigating complaints of mistreatment at kids of Southern California. Meanwhile, here at West 57th, dozens of letters of support for Dr. Newton have already arrived from parents with children in the program.
Coming up next, looking for the Loch Ness Monster.
stick of Lamakin, who gets taken down, and Scott Young tries to wrest control of it for the